All right, so in this week's lesson, we're going to talk about how you can add harmony to your blues lead. And it's really pretty easy and basic. This is not deep in theory. A lot of this is just visualization. If you can visualize some basic chords, which we're going to go through in this lesson, I'll show you some triads and some things in different positions on the neck. And then once you can see those triads, you can get at these harmonies and play them right away and use them when you improvise. So I've got this lesson split into two parts. In this video, we're going to go through the first half of everything that I played in the intro. I'll show you a note for how to play it and also the theory behind it. I don't want to say theory because that'll scare some of you off. We'll talk about the thought process behind it and how you can visualize these things. And then if you'd like to learn the second half, as well as download the tablature and get access to the MP3 jam track so that you can practice everything that we're going to go through in this lesson, you can get those things by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP423. Okay, so let's talk about this song. This song is a blues in the key of E, and it's actually a 24-bar blues. I wanted to go for a much longer blues. A typical blues format would be like a 12-bar blues, but I wanted to extend that so we have more time to hang out on each chord. It gives us a little more chance to think about what's going on. I always hate it when I'm trying to learn how to do something, and about the time I figure out what I need to do, the next chord has come about, and I've kind of lost my place again. So anyway, that's why this is an extended, 24-bar blues. But it's in the key of E, so it's 3 chords, or 1-4-5 chord format. So the 1 chord is an E, 4 is an A, and the 5 chord is a B. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be playing on top of a very basic rhythm. So the rhythm goes just a shuffle rhythm, and it hangs out like that for a long time. And so I'm going to layer on top of that these kinds of things, right? And so the first thing that I want to point out is when it's the E chord, I'm playing E, A, E, 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 A, E. So that's the cadence of it. So it's E, A, E, 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 A, E. And that's kind of a gospel move. I talk about this quite a bit because it's so integrated into the way that I play and the way that I think about improvising. And I attribute that always back to Keith Richards. When I first learned how to play some lead stuff, it was a Rolling Stones song, and Keith Richards, I was learning these little chord things that he would do where he pivots from the chord that he's on to the 4 chord of that chord. And so that's what we're doing here is we're playing the 1 chord, which is an E, but we're going to the 4 chord of that E, which is an A. So it's E, A, E, 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 A, E. So that's kind of the groove that I'm laying on top of this to give it a little more character. Now, instead of me just playing the E and the A chord down here in first position, which you could do, to make it sound a little better, I'm going. So you can see I'm still playing the E and the A, but I'm playing them in different positions now. So I started with the E up here, and that's using the D chord shape. So think of your D chord in first position, slide everything up 2 frets, only play the top 3 strings, and you're playing an E chord. So there's your E, and then for the A, I just barred the first 3 strings on the 2nd fret. So in actual fact, that would be an A6 if you threw in that 2nd fret first string. But anyway, it's, you can think of it as an A chord because it's still an A major chord. So you have an E, A, or A6, and then down to your E down here. So E, A, E, right? And then E, E, A, E. So when I'm doing that, I'm holding the E in first position. I'm playing strings 4, 3, and 2. I think that's what it is. The tablature may be a little different than that, but E, E, A, and then I just go ahead and bar the first 4 strings there again on the 2nd fret, but play strings 4, 3, and 2. And then we're going to hit strings 1 and 2. I did that with an upstroke because those are the top 2 notes in your E chord. You don't even have to have your hand on the fretboard for that. So you have E, A, E, 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 A, E. Notice the little stop there. E, A, E, stop. Okay, so that's the first thing that I played. Then I went a little fill lick there. And I love this fill lick because it's easy to do. You've got your pinky free anyway if you're just playing a straight up E chord there. So I started with an upstroke on the 1 string, and then I played the 2nd string there, and I did a hammer on to the 2nd fret, 2nd string with my pinky. and then another upstroke on the open 1 string. So all together you have. Alright, so the way that this starts then is this first E comes in on the 2. So if we're counting this out, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. It comes in right on that 2. And then I did it again, I repeated that line, but this time I only played strings 2 and 3. So I still played the same triad, like I did with the E chord there, but it just gave it a different sound. And I want you to start thinking about these harmonies as being parts of chords. That's how I think of it. So when I slide into this, now if I just showed you this, you might not connect it to this chord shape, but since we started with the chord shape, this should make sense. Oh, okay, it's just part of that E chord, right? So hopefully a light bulb's going off here going, oh, okay, so these little chord fragments. So when we go into all these things we're about to do, they're just parts of chords that were already there to begin with. Okay, so we're sliding into strings 2 and 3 then, and then strings 2 and 3 here, but on the 2nd fret. Again, same fingering with my left hand. It's part of that A chord, but we're only playing strings 2 and 3. You get a different sound when you just single out 2 strings instead of trying to play all 3. And then look at that. That's open strings 2 and 3 with a hammer on to the 1st fret, 3rd string. So same format though. Actually, I should have mentioned this too. When I'm playing the E, pretty much every time I play the E when I'm playing a blues like this, I do a hammer on with my index finger. Now I've mentioned this in other lessons, but if you want to blues up your E chord, just hammer on that index finger. Take it off and then strum the chord and hammer it on. It gives it much more of a blues gospel kind of feel. From the beginning. And then I came down here and went, I love this lick. I think of Howlin' Wolf when I hear that lick. I think of... Anyway, sliding from the 3rd fret to the 5th fret on the 2nd string, but then I'm hitting the open 1 string. Now remember, when you're playing an E, you can always be thinking of that open 1 string because it's an E note, right? So anything I play, I can always throw in that note and it's going to work. So hopefully you're starting to picture what I'm saying here. So I can go... I can play up and down the scale on the 2nd string, and I can always let that 1 string ring out. It's just giving you some ideas here. So we go up to the 5th fret, and then slide back to the 3rd fret. And then play strings 1 and 2 open. And then to your A chord, and then hammer on to your E chord. That's the lick. Now, if you learn nothing else in this entire thing, I like saying this just to make it dramatic, but I'm being serious here. If you learn nothing else, this lick is so bluesy. It's like, it's as Buddy Guy says, it's so funky you can smell it, right? Man, I could work that into anything. It's just so good. All right, let me back it up from the beginning. I'll play a slow version along with the jam track so that you can hear everything in context up to that point. Okay, so the song stays on the E chord, which is nice, right? So we've got other options here. I'm trying to give you lots of E options, things you can do over this E chord. And it's all based on this kind of pivot thing. It's sort of, that's the dialogue that's playing in the back of my head as I'm going through this. So the next thing I played, okay? Let's look at this. Let me show you how to play it first, then I'll show you where it's coming from. So, ring finger on the 9th fret 2nd string, index finger on the 7th fret 1st string. And I slid into that. And these are a series of triplets. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Triplet, triplet. So you'll see that in the tab. You'll see the little line with the 3 over it. So we do that, and then we go another triplet here. Now this time moved my ring finger up to the 10th fret 2nd string, and my middle finger goes down on the 9th fret 1st string. So you have, and then back to where you started, and then down to here. Now where I am here is I've got my middle finger on the 5th fret 2nd string, my index finger on the 4th fret 1st string. So what's going on here? Sounds complicated. How would you just improvise and just go to these harmonies? It's basically we're still playing an E chord and an A chord. See, when I play the chords as triads like that, you're probably going, oh, it's just the chords. So E, A, E, E. This E is using the A shape out of Caged, but we're playing the top part of that A. Just that top little triad. Now I'm not playing all 3 strings because I don't need them. I'm just playing the top 2 strings. So hopefully when you're seeing this, you're seeing that chord shape. So you're going, oh, okay. So this represents your E chord. And you can see where that's coming from. It's just coming from the chord shape. So if I said to do that for a D chord, you could picture your D chord here using the A shape. And you could slide into that harmony. That's called a harmonized third. A harmonized third is when you got 2 strings that are adjacent like that. They're right beside each other. If you've got a string in between, like this, that's a harmonized 6th, generally speaking. Okay, so that's where that E comes from. Then I came into this position. That's your A chord. Think your A chord using the D shape. Just like we played the D shape here for the E chord. Same thing up here. Now this is getting into the Caged system, and if you don't know what that is, you'll just have to, actually you can check out a lesson I did, EP423. It goes through the entire Caged system. But anyway, that's where we are here. So that's like your A chord shape. Back to your E, and then down here. Now, you should pause the video and figure out what this is. Hopefully you've got this by now. But this little harmony here should totally make sense. This harmonized third, where it's coming from, what chord shape it's coming from, because we've already talked about it. Hopefully you've paused it and tried to work it out. But it's just your E chord using the D shape. It's the top 2 strings this time. So you're starting to see this now, right? Oh, it's just an E chord, A, and then back to the E down here. So that means all the places where I've got an E chord, I can just play 2 notes out of those chords. So when the next thing I played, that BB King, I played strings 1 and 2 here on the 12th fret. How did I know to do that? Well, I know that those are the 2 notes that are in my E chord, right? Strings 1 and 2, this is just an octave higher. So I hit it there, then I hit strings 1 and 2 open, and then back into the A, and then there's the hammer-on E. So now that's cool too. Like that's another one of those if you don't learn anything else. So if you're playing something in E and you get lost at any point, you can always come up here, right, and get right back into the chord doing the pivot, the gospel thing. Okay, so that part goes. And then I went into this. Now this is another must-know blues lick. A lot of you already know this. I've got my middle finger on the 4th fret 3rd string, index fingers on the 3rd fret 2nd string. And the way that I'm playing it is I slid into the 3rd string with a downstroke and then an upstroke on the 2nd string. And I just keep that pattern going down, up, down, up, down, up. Down on the 3rd string, up on the 2nd string. So it's, let me try that again. Like this. Slowly. Now where this is coming from is your E7 chord. So remember, if you're playing a blues, you can play the E, you can play like an E6, you can play an E7, you can play any major chord. You can throw in whatever number you want, like an E9. You can do that too, which would be like, right? But it just has to be major. You couldn't do a minor. So when I played this, I'm thinking E7, and I'm thinking of the E7 triad right here. So think of your D7 in first position. If you slide that up 2 frets, you have an E7. So hopefully you're starting to see this. You go, okay, that's my E chord using the D shape. If I use the D7 shape, slide that up 2 frets, I've got an E7. So you can start to see the correlation here. So that means this A that I played up here, if I played it like this, I would be playing an A7. So this is the power of these little triads, is being able to see them all over the neck. But once you can see them in one place and you get it, then you just have to know how to work it out, you know, to make the chord that you're trying to make. Okay, that's where that's coming from, is your E7. It's just strings 2 and 3. I did that, and then I went, and so for that, I slid into this position where I've got my ring finger on the 6th fret 3rd string, middle finger 5th fret 2nd string, index finger 4th fret 1st string. So I slid that down and then slid that down again. Now what is this over an E? This would be an E6. Slide it down. Anytime you take your 6th chord and you go down 2 frets this way, you're playing the 9 of that same chord. So that'd be an E9. So E6 to an E9. And I walked it down chromatically. Some of you are going, that's not a 6th chord, that's a minor chord. And you're right, that would be a C sharp minor. These notes. And when I play it like that, it sounds totally different, right? But remember, C sharp minor is the relative minor of E. Okay, so that means that I can play the relative minor of whatever chord I'm on. If I play its relative minor, just a triad of that, I'll be playing the 6th chord of the chord I'm on. Did I say that right? I made that totally confusing. What I mean by that is, if I'm playing an E chord and I want to play an E6, I just have to ask myself, what is the relative minor of E? Well, it's a C sharp minor. I won't get into the relative minor theory right now, but it's a C sharp minor, and so that means I could play C sharp minor triad, which I'm doing, and work that and play that on top of an E chord, and it's going to sound like a 6th chord. It's going to have that western swing kind of vibe. So that's that. Anyway, that's what's going on there. So I'm just giving you different versions of E chords. Walk it down 2 frets, and then you have an E9. All right, let's back it up from the beginning with a slow version of the jam track and play everything up to that point so that you can hear it all in context. Okay, so now the song goes to the 4 chord. We're off of the E chord now. We're going to the A chord. And remember, to get the last thing we played for the E chord was we walked it down to this E9. Now, when it goes to the A chord, I slid up like this. I started on the middle finger on the 4th fret 3rd string, index finger on the 3rd fret 2nd string. Slid it up and slid it up again. Actually, just picked that once. Now, why did I slide into this? What's going on here? Well, think about what's going on. We're playing over the A chord now, and I'm playing a little harmonized third, so you should be able to work out what chord this is coming out of. Hopefully you're seeing the A bar chord here, the A major bar chord. In fact, hopefully you're just seeing the triad, because that's really all I'm picturing is this little A triad. But I'm playing strings 2 and 3 out of that triad. So, and then once I'm here, I went. Isn't that a cool sound? And to play that, I'm coming up here with my pinky to the 8th fret, 2nd string. And I'm just playing strings 2 and 3. Notice I'm hitting that 3rd string each time with my pick with a downstroke. A little bit of palm muting there as well. Like that. Now some of you are going, what is this note? Why does that work? That's in the A7. So this would be like an A major. There's your A7 that we just talked about, or think about adding that 7. So it's an A dominant 7. And then I went, now this is actually the same thing we were doing for the E, right? We're just doing it up here on the 5th fret. So I'm borrowing strings 1 and 2, just like the open strings 1 and 2 for the E chord. So hopefully you're picturing, okay, E chord, all those little licks we were doing, we can recreate them here, letting this 5th fret be where the nut would be. Okay, so there's strings 2 and 3 on the 7th fret, and then there's the hammer on. So I'm playing strings 2 and 3 behind the 5th fret, hammer onto the 6th fret 3rd string. And then I played this lick that goes. And I'm keeping this same position here, where I've got my middle finger on the 6th fret 3rd string, index finger is on the 5th fret 2nd string. I played the same like triplet thing that we've been doing. So I'm playing strings 3, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, slide up. This time I'm sliding up, but I'm keeping that position, sliding up with my middle finger to the 9th fret 3rd string. So you have, then sliding up 2 more frets, then back down 2 frets. So all together, you can see that I'm sliding into those notes. That you could do this however you want, but I just find that to be easiest. Now what are these notes? Well, this is your A chord. This would be like from your A7. And this would be like from your A6, using your F sharp minor, because that's the relative minor of A. Just taking 2 notes out of that harmonized, or 2 notes out of that 6th chord. So it just so happens that they're the same shape, and honestly I wasn't even thinking about that being a 6th chord. I was just thinking about the shape. I like to take a shape like this and just move it around and see what sounds I get. Alright, so we're still playing over the A chord, and we learn. And then to get us back into the E chord, I went. Okay, so I went ahead, even though we weren't to the E chord yet, getting ahead of my words, even though we weren't to the E chord yet, I went and started playing as if we were. And that's a very common strategy, and I'm going to talk about that in the part 2 video a little more, and one other part. But you're playing ahead of the beat, even though we haven't got to the E. To wrap up the solo part for the A chord, you can go ahead and skip ahead and start playing some E licks. Basically, that's what's going on. So I went ahead and went back into this thing. We've already done this actually. So we're on the 5th fret, 2nd string, slide down to the 3rd fret, down to the 2nd fret. So you're not just hitting the 2nd string though, you're also hitting the open 1 string. And then open 1 and 2. So to your A chord, and then hammer onto your E chord. And once that hammer on happens, that's where the song then switches to the E chord. But I played this little part ahead of the beat, ahead of the E chord, even though it wasn't there yet. So alright, and that gets us to the E chord. Now that's where I'm going to wrap up this part 1 video. There's another whole half, but I'm going to save that for the part 2 video for premium members. If you're not a premium member yet, I would encourage you to look into it. Very affordable, lots and lots of lessons, hundreds and hundreds of in-depth lessons like this, all geared around helping you improvise in blues and country and all kinds of roots-based lesson content like this. All right, let me back up. I'll play through this one more time with a slow version of the jam track, and then we'll see you in part 2.